Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to another edition. And this time we got a doozy for you.
Oh
First,
yeah.
first of all, I'm H, and with me is
Big Mike from Big Mike's Real Reviews.
all right. And I mean, this past week and a half has just been like back-to-back movies. Mike, I don't know if you saw everything that I saw, but we of course saw Gladiator,
Yep.
uh, saw Wicked, which
I actually did go and see it.
man, I had some issues. I had some issues when I came out of there.
Yeah.
The main thing I came away, now, mind you, never saw the musical or anything like that.
Me either, yeah.
After watching the movie, I came out thinking to myself, gosh, Dorothy unwittingly aided and abetted some racists.
Exactly. It was like, was this narrative spun just a little bit? Maybe? Yeah.
So now I almost feel like, because I don't know how they do plays. I don't know if they do plays the same way, where after a play has been out for a while, they have like a movie. I mean, follow where I'm going. Because you have the movie Wicked itself, but I don't know if the play is actually viewable. Because I would almost like to see the play.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's exactly like online or do you have to see it, like it live. I'm not too sure.
Because the amazing thing is a lot of people I've talked to that have seen it said that they didn't pick up on the cues like this until they saw the movie. And I'm like, all it took was Cynthia Erivo to be cast in the part.
Yeah.
So we did that. Let's see what else we did. Moana, we did Gladiator, we did look.
I didn't see Moana.
Oh, okay, bro, you got to see that. You got to check that out. That was pretty cool too. And then Mufasa's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Lord of the Rings: The Rohirrim is also coming up pretty soon. So it's like there's plenty of stuff to see this Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Brings us to the movie we're talking about right now, which is Nosferatu.
Can we please talk about this movie?
Oh, okay.
Right now.
So here's the thing. So ordinarily, we would have been embargoed until close to the Christmas, but because the movie has premiered in Berlin already.
So can I interject real quick?
Go ahead.
So a lot of times when movie studios has the embargo up until like the movie comes out,
right?
A lot of times they know that it's going to be either mixed reviews or the reviews won't be good.
Right.
Now, when the embargo lifts very early, this was like almost a month early, the studio is very, very confident that this movie is going to be good, if not great.
Right.
So that has everything to do with the studios saying, hey, yeah, you know what? This movie's going to review well or it isn't. That's why the embargoes are either like closer towards when it releases, when it's not good, or like this one, they're like, you know what? Go ahead and review this movie a month early because we know it's the shit.
Yeah, and it's getting a lot of good feedback. I will say this before we go any further. Bill Skarsgård redeemed himself because just a couple of months earlier, I saw The Crow.
Okay, The Crow. Okay, I was like, redeemed himself, but yes, The Crow.
The Crow was garbage.
Again, I want to interject. So for me personally, I didn't see The Crow, but I don't blame actors for shit direction and shit scripts. The actor does whatever they're paid to do. The writers and the directors are the ones who are supposed to make the actors, make the movie great. So usually it starts in my opinion, the ground up. So the writers, the director first is at blame. The actors, to me, are not at blame.
Okay, well, we'll put it this way. We'll table that because that's a whole nother discussion. But I can tell you, The Crow was a garbage flick.
Okay.
I found out that
I don't disagree. I'm just saying I don't think it was Bill Skarsgård's fault.
Right. It's not his fault. He was just in a garbage. He was in a garbage movie.
Right. Yeah.
But this movie here was not garbage at all.
No, like the complete opposite of garbage.
Right. So let's lay the groundwork. First of all,
Okay.
this is a remake, and I had to really, really go do my homework. I mean, I know there was another Nosferatu movie back in 1922.
1922. Yep.
And I wanted to make sure, like, is this a reimagining? Is it a remake? No, the director said that this is a remake of that movie.
Yes.
This movie is still based on the Bram Stoker story that we have heard and seen
Yes.
for nearly 100 years.
Yes, because the original Nosferatu movie was based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. However, they did not have the rights to it. So that's why it was named Nosferatu and loosely based off of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right.
And I watched some interviews too with the director, and he said when he was a kid, his mother had got a VHS of the original 1922 Nosferatu. So that was one of his first movie experiences with him and his mom, and he always had a love for that movie. This was a passion project for him.
Yes.
And you could tell. You could definitely tell.
And big props to Robert Eggers. I got to go back and watch his movies because he came out with The Witch in 2015.
Oh, The Witch was amazing. Yeah.
I've not watched either of them. And the only other one I've seen was The Northman. And that was pretty cool. But I definitely want to go back and see this because one of the young ladies we were talking to after the movie says a lot
of Lighthouse. We have to see The Lighthouse.
Right. She said a lot of the influences from this movie could be seen from the other flicks that he's done.
Right.
So let's get into it. So the plot of this, actually, let me do it this way. Let me give the overall plot, and then we can talk about some of the differences as in other movies. Okay. So the plot in this one is you have a young lady by the name of Ellen, played by Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp. Ellen has been having these dreams since childhood about this mysterious Count Orlok. Yes. Who is the Dracula of this movie. And the woman is on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And she just got married to Thomas. Thomas is a real estate broker, and he's all about trying to make he and Ellen financially comfortable. Because back then you can't just go out and get a job. Like I'm on the verge of doing stuff. Yeah. And then the real estate agent he's working for is like, look, we got this Count Orlok who lives all the way over in East Bumfuck Europe. Exactly. Here, we need to go close the deal. So, my dude goes all the way up in the mountains, and some stuff happens. And you know what? I don't really feel like I'm spoiling it because if you've watched enough Dracula movies, you know the beats.
Exactly. This is pretty much what everyone knows. Like I said, the only reason this was called Nosferatu originally is because they didn't have the rights to Dracula. So this is basically a retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Right.
And matter of fact, watching this movie, there's still the closest thing to it was the 1992 version of the movie.
Yes.
Those that's the only movie I can really reference from. But I said,
which is funny because who played Count Orlok in that movie?
That was Gary Oldman.
No, you're talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm talking about there was a 90s version of Nosferatu where
Oh, okay. You talking about Willem Dafoe that played
Nosferatu.
Right. Who was saving that?
In the 90s version of Nosferatu. And he was actually in this playing the the
Shadow of the Vampire.
But in this version of Nosferatu, he was playing the Van Helsing, character. Because they couldn't call him Van Helsing because that was based off of Bram Stoker's Dracula. But he was the Van Helsing character, basically.
Right. Now, the biggest difference, the biggest departure I thought that this took from any other Dracula story was there was a much lesser focus on actual vampirism. Like you didn't get a whole lot of the blood, the fangs, and this, that, and the third. As a matter of fact, when it gets to the point where Orlok is where he wants to be close to Ellen, you don't get all this vampirism running around killing people. It's something else, and I don't want to say what that something else is.
Yeah.
And it's more natural in nature, but it's
exactly.
just
exactly. But
right?
also,
yeah, go ahead.
Also, the thing I liked about this one was the fact that, you know how in a lot of vampire movies, even in some of the Dracula stuff, it's always very theatrical. The vampire is like he's handsome, he's sexually attractive, and all this stuff. This was not it.
Oh no.
This was the original. Like, hey, this character is undead. He made a pact with the devil, right?
Uh-huh.
His undead corpse is walking the earth, and it's not natural. Nope. Thus, hey, I want to say this. This shirt that I'm wearing is very deliberate because this is a vampire pinup shirt or zombie. I'm sorry, zombie pinup shirt.
Yeah.
It was very deliberate for this particular review we're doing, because that was pretty much the take on this version of Nosferatu. It was very much a undead, rotting corpse walking the earth that made a pact with the devil.
Right. So that's one of the other things.
Nothing hot and sexy about this.
That's one thing, one of the biggest departures that you're going to get versus this and other Dracula movies that we've had.
Yes.
That, there's no ongoing forbidden love or furtive romance or him chasing it. Like, look,
it was just very visceral. Yeah, it was very visceral, like animalistic. It was
right.
Yeah.
But
what did I say when we walked out the movie? Was the first thing I said. Do you remember?
I don't remember. Remind me.
I said I can see this movie years from now where people are like, this is a classic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This movie is an instant classic. Instant.
And then to that, I say, yeah, because when you look at it and put it in perspective with 1992's Dracula, that gets a little bit of camp now. It's a little campy.
Yeah.
As compared to this, because this is more like a psychological horror movie.
Oh, very much so.
Definitely swerves into that territory. Because the biggest thing for me was, Lily Rose did a very adept job of just having like a haunted psyche. Because
and the only thing that grounded her was the love with her husband.
Right,
she never was grounded before that.
Right. But the thing that blew my mind, especially for this being the time period that it was in, of course, it's the 1800s in Germany, is this girl was slowly losing her mind.
Yes.
And nobody was taking her seriously because, even she was begging her husband to stay home. He was like, look, I'm going to get my boy to look out for you. Friedrich, that was played by Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yes.
And Friedrich like, look, bruh, I got kids.
Yeah.
I got my wife. And you want me watching her. Bruh.
and speaking of, when you bring up Aaron Taylor Johnson, can we not just real quick, and you brought up Lily Rose Depp, like their performances in this movie
all the way around.
Even Nosferatu's character, who was the actor that played him?
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård, right? Who played Pennywise. All of the performance in this movie is like just perfect.
Yeah.
You can't think of, I can at least think of another movie where every performance in the movie was stellar.
Yeah. And
there was
thing for me was with Skarsgård as Nosferatu, and I'm going to kind of delve into it a little bit, but I'm gonna pull back a bit. Is the vocal acting that he did,
man?
The interview that I saw, that was his voice. That was just his inflection, and his imprint on the character, and it's just eerie. It to me,
and bringing it back to like the undead part, the breathing.
Yeah,
bro.
You know what? And it's going to sound weird. It's like trying to spread old earth on toast and eating it without water. That's what it felt like, because it creeps you out. Like every time he speaks, you should just feel like,
But that's what I mean about the undead aspect.
Right.
If you think about it, if his lungs are not alive, right? The only and he's undead, so he doesn't need to breathe. But the only time he would need to take in air, or his lungs would need to take in air, correct, is if he's speaking. Right. So as he's speaking, he will speak, and then when he needs to, do another sentence, he needs to draw a breath. But that breath is very hard to draw because his lungs are decomposing.
He put Darth Vader to shame, basically.
Yo, like again, even down to like the extras, right? Like the whole like gypsy town. There was no performance in this movie that was phoned in.
No.
Every performance down to the extras was stellar.
Right.
Stellar.
And then here's the thing. The atmosphere, because what did I tell you? It's one of those things where you pay attention to everything. Like, even though there was color, the color was colorless.
Yes.
Okay. When it was light, it felt like that little bit of light was like the last little bit of light that you were ever going to see. And then the biggest thing that I enjoyed is the techniques that Robert Eggers did. It's two things. Thing number one, the technique that he had when there was crucial dialogue amongst most of the characters, especially among Thomas and Ellen, they almost taught the silhouettes. Like a lot of times they were purposefully backlit, where you got like silhouettes. Like because the thing of it is, at one point when they was having a discussion about a mental affliction, you could really just close your eyes and just listen because like the characters were silhouetted.
Yeah.
So you really just kind of close your eyes and listen and just imagine. So but then the bigger thing too was Robert Eggers must have really paid attention in film school the day they talked about Steven Spielberg and Jaws.
Oh, of course.
Because that was because remember I said that too. The biggest thing I liked is throughout most of the movie, you got glimpses and pieces of Orlok.
Yes.
And trust you me, I mean, I was still expecting to see something close to Max Schreck's rendition.
No. Like I said, you got the undead version.
Right.
But when you're talking about his direction, which is again funny because I watched, interviews with Robert Eggers.
Yeah.
So like I said, his inspiration, he always loved Nosferatu, the 1922 version. It's a special place like in his heart. And the first thing he ever directed in high school as a play was Nosferatu.
Right.
That was literally, and he said that solidified his love to say, hey, you know what? When I grow up, I want to be a director.
Yeah.
And the first thing he directed was Nosferatu. This was his literal like passion project. And you can tell every part of it was made with love, care, TLC, everything.
Yeah. Because like I said, that was the biggest thing for me. Any other Dracula movie that you've ever seen that goes along with this, with this telling of the story, early on you get the vampire.
Yes.
And early on you're watching the vampire chase after the woman. And this one, like I said, you only seen Orlok in glimpses and pieces and parts. And even when you get like a full good view, you still only get it for like moments. You don't get like, full vampire and it's just like there and all this glory. Like it was almost like blink and you missed it. Right,
because even the first scenes when you see him, right, like it's shrouded in silhouettes. Because remember when when he came to his house, like the fire was behind him, right?
Yeah.
So the whole part was like he was silhouetted behind the fire, so you couldn't actually see his face.
Right. You just got the outline.
Right. Because that was the whole point of it anyway, because he knew how he looked. So he still wanted to hide the fact that he was, undead to his, to his character.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So even when the doors first opened to the castle, right? All you saw was his silhouette, and he was just standing there for like an extended period of time before he kind of like turned around and walked away to be like, hey, follow me up here, because it was just like, what are you? Who are you? And he's just standing there because they're just looking at each other.
Thing too, again, in comparison to any other Dracula movie that you've seen, again, there's the air of menace. There was the air of this being was not to be trifled with.
Exactly.
He was not to be trifled with. He wasn't suave. He wasn't handsome. Or even in the 92 version, He wasn't this elderly supernatural being. We still didn't know.
Yeah.
Like we knew something. We knew something was was off about it.
Yeah.
But okay, let me throw this at you. We gotta wind down. So
yeah, we do.
I just realized, what were some of the other elements that you liked about the movie, and what was the one thing that you didn't like?
The one thing I didn't like is when the movie ended. That was the only thing I didn't like, was the movie ending.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much to praise in this movie. This was, like I said, this is an instant classic. This is one of those movies. This is a rare gem. This is one of those things that comes along like every decade or so, where it's like, you know what? This is special.
Yeah.
And this will stand the tales of time, from now to 100 years from now, just like the original Nosferatu that came out in 1922 that we're still talking about.
Years. Yeah.
This one will be like, hey, guess what? 102 years later, they made a movie that was even fucking better than that, and we're still talking about that movie 100 years later.
Yeah, because you got to look at it like this. We don't get a whole lot of good media for vampire. Like for me right now, the only other thing right now that still kind of comes close is Interview with the Vampire, the newer version that's out. Yeah. And I got mixed feelings on that because I've read the books over the years. So that again is a whole other tale to be told another day.
Right.
But this right here, if I had any complaints, I only have two. Thing number one is that I wish this movie had been released in October.
Yes. I remember you saying that when we were walking out, because the first thing I said was instant classic. The first thing you said was this should have been released in October. Right.
And the only other one I have, and it's really not even so much of a complaint, it's more of a nitpick than anything, is that the pacing is kind of slow, but everything's on the front end.
But it's a slow burn. It's a good slow burn.
Right. Because once they set the story up, I honestly think it picks up right around the time when Thomas sets out to go to the Count's castle.
Yes.
That's when things really start to pick up.
Yep.
And you really have to pay attention in this movie. This is
only the first act was, like you said, kind of slow.
Right.
Act 2 and 3 was just like you're already in. You're invested. You're totally in it.
This is
what you're trying to figure out what is going on here.
Right. And to reiterate, for those of you going in expecting something like Twilight or whatever no, you're not getting that. I mean, and like I said, even the traditional vampire tropes, you're really not going to get a lot of that. So do not expect to go in and see a lot of fangs and blood and gore. Like, Grant, they're going to have some shocking moments.
There's gore and stuff, but it's more horror than like, this is like some gore, handsome vampire guy that's going to bite into this person's neck. This is like
you don't get any of that.
No.
Like I said, there's one moment that's just going to make you say like, oh.
There's several moments that gives you that.
But there's that one main moment.
Yeah. But even how deep the sound of like the drinking of blood creeps you out.
Bruh. And we're going to leave it there.
Yep.
So this movie releases Christmas Day.
Yes.
Give it a watch. And I can say after everything I've seen this year, this is probably the only other movie I said, yes, I need to get this on. I need to get a physical copy of this when it's coming out.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, this movie's an instant classic. Instant classic.
Yeah.
This movie will be talked about for another 100 years.
Yeah. So we're going to end up there. We got a couple other things coming down the pipe because all of a sudden everything's just coming fast and furious before the end of the year.
Yep.
And we'll be back soon.
Oh, yeah.
And we are out.
Peace.